to get too connected and too attached to their things.
Right, of course.
And not understanding that staging isn't about selling them. It's about selling their house, right?
Of course.
So I think that's probably one of the bigger faux pas that I have to deal with on a regular basis for sure.
So it's funny. So then along those lines, what kind of pushback do you see from homeowners when you're asking them to sort of put certain items away? Like what kinds of things are they kind of saying that, no, they don't really want to put away because they need to live this way? Like the TV set, for example?
Yeah, big one. So I think I've now narrowed it. After 15 years, I kind of have a really good radar for clients that make great staging clients and other people who are not going to make good staging clients. And actually, the big part of it is personality, to be honest with you. And so normally when I ask people when I walk in, so if I could tell they were extremely house proud. So I walk in, and there's nothing wrong with being proud of your home, but if I walk in and I say, I love, your gallery wall. So let's use this as an example. Right now, trending, it's all over Pinterest, is how to create your own family wall or gallery wall.
Oh.
So for those who don't know what that is, that's when you take all your family photos and maybe some other few items, different shapes and sizes, and you create, instead of having one big piece of art, you create a huge, a collage of your story, basically. And I love it. It looks fantastic. I have a gallery wall in my own home. They're wonderful for living. They're perfect for telling your story. But when it comes to staging, most of the time it's mainly personal pictures. And so I'm 99% of the time usually telling people to take down the gallery wall. And when I walk in and I see the gallery wall, I'm like, all right, this is a good test. So I will say to them, I love your gallery wall, just like what I just said.
Right.
But it's really not about that. We need to take that down, and we're going to do something else in this room. And I'll gauge their face. If they say, oh, I totally understand that, no problem, I get it. We got to take the personal stuff down, and not a problem. I'm like, good, pass the staging test, no problem. If the person's eyes wide open and either say, no, I'm not doing that, or why would you want to do that? Then I either spend a few minutes and explain to them why I'm doing it. I give them the full understanding, like what we just said. It's not about selling us. We need to create those perfect pictures, because unfortunately a gallery wall in a MLS picture looks very cluttered on the wall. People can't see the pictures. It's like a bunch of clutter on the wall. We need to create clean lines and a single focal point, right? And so if they don't understand it by the time I'm done, and they say, I'm not willing to do that, then normally I know that they're probably not going to be a great staging client, that it's going to be difficult for the realtor, that it's going to be, a difficult time. And then I try to gear my suggestions to things that they can do that they're comfortable with. So if, the thought of having other people move your stuff around makes people upset inside.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't want people touching my stuff. Normally they're not good staging clients. And I've had that. Like, I'll walk into homes and, I will say it is the rare occasion. I think we've had very few clients, I have to say, for the most part, people understand this concept now. Mm-hmm. And especially after I can show them, like, look, statistically, the only reason I'm still in business is because this works. This is a marketing strategy to sell your home. And people are normally able to let go. That is the majority of people. They're able to, it takes them a while, and I'll walk them through the process. And to be honest with you, sometimes it's a bit of a counseling session by the time the consultation is done, right? Sometimes it's a happy reason they're selling. Sometimes it's a sad reason that they're selling, or a difficult season in life. And you have to be sensitive to all those things. Right. But the pushback is normally from those clients that are like, I think my decorating style is great, and you should just be able to work with it, right? So that's typically one of the big pushbacks. Or sometimes it's a genuine concern, like, you know what, I'm willing to do pretty much everything that you've said, Lucy, but I really can't move that piano. I'm not going to move it out of that room for obvious reasons, right? So, those things I'm used to. When there's children in the home, I'm pretty sensitive to that. I have 4 kids myself, and I understand, kids have needs, and you don't want to traumatize them too much. Moving is already a difficult thing.
Right.
So deal with those, reservations, I usually do right on the spot. We come up with strategies right there to how to involve the children, how to handle their questions, how to handle their stuff, because it's, you know, most parents will know children's stuff usually take over the whole home, right? Like it just, you don't have one room with just the baby stuff. It's usually like everywhere. So I understand all of that. So we try to find, you know, a good compromise. And typically, as I said, the majority of people these days, I'm not getting as much pushback as I did when I first started this.
Got it.
So, and if I do get that pushback of, you know, I mentioned before about people saying, I'm going to let the new owner take care of this. I give them my best pitch. I give them my best reasons for why. I throw out every statistic that I've ever had in my arsenal. And if at the end of that conversation they still don't get it, then I know it's best for me to walk away at that point. And it's better for the realtor as well.
Right.
But you have to either understand the concept of staging. I'm really in this business, and I love my job. I'm in this business to really help people. And I genuinely mean that, because I love seeing people move, you know, they're going on to new chapters of their life. I love having a successful sale at the end of it, because it's such a stressful time, right?
Yeah, for
Selling
sure.
such a stressful time, and you're the same, Isabel. Like, we want to help people move on and, you know, get the results they're looking for.
Absolutely.
And we know that but there are those odd people, the odd, you know, small percentage that we know they're not going to understand or get this, and it's going to be more stressful for us in the long run if we continue to you know, go along. And if they just get the place tidied up, it's the best bet. And although they are few and far between, there's a certain amount of pushback I'm used to, but that pushback I usually end up. But here's my suggestions for you, and if you do some of them, you're going to be in a better position to sell. But it won't make sense for us to stage your home.
Right. No, that definitely makes sense. Would you say, is there a different way to stage a condo versus a house?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's certain, I will say this. So condos, you have different you know, situations that you're dealing with in a condo than you are in most homes. So for example, I mean, condos are generally smaller, as we all know that. So in a condo, you're trying to make small spaces seem bigger. That's the biggest obstacle that we're doing. And we're trying to show people how they can comfortably live in a 700 square foot space, and sometimes even less than a 500 square foot space. So, and when they walk into a vacant condo, I hear this over and over again, they just can't see it. They just can't see how they're going to put their furniture and how they're going to lay it out. And in Toronto, there's so many buildings with really unique layouts where, you know, the rooms aren't necessarily square. They've got different angles, and, you know, the bedrooms, you know, I've had some bedrooms that are literally like a triangle, and they're like, I can't even see my bed fitting in here.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Absolutely. And so for condos, it's so important to show people, look, I can put a queen bed in here, and I had no idea a queen bed could fit in there. So it's about really showcasing how to use the space. It's also about making use of every inch of space. So, you know, if I can fit a small desk into a little niche, I'm going to do that to show them, look, you can have an office space. You would have thought this was just a glorified hallway before, but look, we can function here. We can make this work for you. So that becomes the priority. Whereas a house, it's not necessarily the same. You might have small bedrooms, but depending on the square footage, you know, I've had spaces that are these giant open concept rooms that are quite cavernous. They're huge. And people can say, well, yeah, I can fit my furniture in here, no problem. But when you showcase it as, you know, cozy, warm, and inviting, you give people their picture. It's really about selling the lifestyle.
Right.
And, you know, it's a lot different. The effect is still the same. People instantly can visualize themselves living in the home. So that's the commonality between condos and homes, staging them, that is that you're trying to give people the visual. You're trying to show people this is how you can live. And what's funny is I hear from people all the time, sometimes I've worked with, or the new owners of a place have stayed in touch with us, like they might have us come back and help them with decorating their new home. And we literally almost time and time again, they'll set the furniture up the way that we had it set up, they'll put the artwork where we had the artwork. And because they remembered, they're like, I love the way you had it set up, that's why I bought it. And so, and they'll set it up the same way. So it's a powerful like tool that for both spaces, for large and for small spaces.
Right.
But we try to address whatever the challenge is. So sometimes in homes, to be honest with you, they might have like a bedroom. I find that one of the big challenges in some of the house bedrooms, especially in older homes in Toronto, is that they have windows or closets or doors on almost every wall, and no one can figure out where to put the bed.
Right.
To be honest.
Yeah, it's true. It's a problem.
Yeah, and so they're like, would have never thought to put a bed there. So again, it's about really just showing people how to live in the home, and that goes for both condos and homes for sure.
Interesting. Is there a certain way that's the best way to stage a living room?
Yeah, but so there's some, with staging, we try to keep it fairly formulaic. And what I mean by that is for when we look at a living room, and whether it's a condo or a home, we want to make sure that we create a single conversation grouping. So we want to show people that they can have more than just a sofa in a space. So, and there's some houses that have very small living spaces as well. So typically what we do is we'll always use a rug. We always try to define the space with the rug. We want to make sure that we have at least a sofa. So when I say sofa as opposed to a love seat, that's important.
Okay.
Because people will look at the living room and they'll go, oh, only a love seat will fit here, which is technically a two-seater sofa. And so we'll make sure that we fit a three-seater sofa, but it might be a smaller scale three-seater sofa. But when people look at it, they're like, that's a regular size sofa. And instead of putting sofas and love seats, which we very rarely do, and this is one thing that we've used as a staging strategy, we'll usually put a sofa and two chairs. And the reason we do that is because it offers us far more flexibility in terms of layout. So we can angle those chairs. For example, some living rooms back right onto a dining room, like there's an opening between the living room and the dining room. And if I put a love seat there, it literally blocks that opening. But if I put chairs there and put them into the corners, the traffic flow is very easy, and people can walk in between the chairs if they need to, or walk around easier than if it was a love seat. So sofa, two chairs is pretty standard for the way that we do it. Some stagers may do it differently, but that's worked for us, and we tend to cater to smaller spaces anyway. So that tends to be one of the strategies that we use. In that living room, we'll always make sure that we have small coffee tables usually, and we'll have end tables with lamps. So I want to talk about lighting because it's super important.
Yeah.
Living room spaces, but I'll sort of spread this as a general rule actually. But for living rooms, we'll always make sure that we at least have two table lamps and a floor lamp, pretty much almost all the time. And the reason is we do not know, and sometimes they will have overhead lights, but in a lot of condos and in a lot of older homes, it's not guaranteed there's an overhead light in any room, to be honest with you. They'll have them in the kitchen. They might have it in the dining room. But a lot of the places, it's a 50-50. But even if they had an overhead light, ambient lighting is so important. That's what creates the mood. That's what gives it the warm glow when people walk in, especially if they are showing it in the, when it's darker outside.
Yeah.
So our rooms always have that, right? And I feel the room doesn't feel finished unless it has those types of lamps in the room. The other big thing that we create, and this goes again for our rule of staging, is to create that single focal point. Because I sort of sometimes picture myself as a photographer when I walk in. I walk in, I look at the room, and I'm like, this is the shot that's going to go on the MLS. And I say, I want to create a really nice focal point. And typically it's either on the main wall, either over the sofa, if that's what you see when you first walk in, or it might be over a fireplace, or it might be, it's where the TV is going to go. And we try to create that single focal point, and we usually use a large-scale piece of art. So that is the mood that we set. That art might have some color. It might be black and white. But if it has color, we usually, again, pick a single accent color, and we'll accent with that. So we'll have, let's say the piece of art has some teal in it. We'll use that color, and we'll put some teal cushions on the sofas or on the chairs, and we'll add that color sort of throughout to create a cohesive, designed, finished look. And it's been successful for us. It works really well, and it looks amazing in the pictures.
Interesting. Now, what about paint color? It was something you were just mentioning earlier. How do you advise people on what kinds of paint colors they should use? And also, why is it, I've noticed that mint green, when a lot of builders seem to paint their houses mint green, and for whatever reason, they never sell. And so I'm starting to think that there's something wrong with the color green when people walk into a space.
Oh, I know. I say this with great respect. So builders know how to build houses for the most part. So I walk in and I'm looking at, I go into model suites. We stage model suites for builders quite often. And there are there's things that I can't build, a house, but I can pick a paint color. So, and when I see that, when I walk in and if I've seen anything mint green, the mint green to me can work in the right setting, but for a house tone, if it has nothing to do with any of the other finishes or the flooring, like unless they've introduced a new color somewhere. Painting in mint green is almost equal to painting at a hospital color, and as far as I'm concerned. It's a very sterile, cool color.
Right.
It might work in a kid's room where we bring in some green accents, but we're not going to stage a living room with those colors. So paint color is huge, and people, like, I've been preaching this to the choir for